Obama went looking to try to start some kind of dialogue again and was met by the announcement that there would be a satellite launched, which basically means a missile test.
Okay, so put it into context. Of the 23,000 H-bombs in the world today, Russia and America own 97%.
But
I just
bit more responsible, one would think.
Are they? How do you know that Obama won't get a cerebral tumour, and I've seen this in my patients, and do something crazy before the diagnosis is made? How do we know that?
There's always a black swan, but then there's other countries that, for example, North Korea has proliferated. Pakistan has proliferated.
I'll answer that. But I would say that the real axis of evil and the real rogue states are Russia and America holding the world at nuclear ransom. And without Russia and America behaving responsibly, why shouldn't any other country have nuclear weapons?
Well, you could ask the question another way, because I'm sure that when North Korea and the leadership in Iran, or Ayatollah Khamenei, are thinking of nuclear weapons, it's not because Russia and the United States have them. It's because they want to be sure that there will not be regime change in their countries and want hegemony in the region.
How do you know?
I do not believe for a minute. Well, first of all, I have talked to Iranian leaders, but I don't claim that that is why I know. What one can know is what the fears and the desires of those leaders are.
Okay.
And I think that's fairly clear in the Iranian sense, which is to be the strongest power in the region, because they talk about that incessantly and clearly want, as Shiites, to finally have the place in the Arab world they think they deserve.
So I would say that both America and Russia have the same sense of hegemony. Americans tell me this is the greatest country on earth, and I really don't understand that. I mean, what about Australia? We've got kangaroos, no? So there is that sense of entitlement and superiority, which I think many countries have. Now, I want to approach this from two perspectives. America's intent on exporting nuclear reactors all over the world. Any country that has a nuclear reactor has a bomb factory, because they make 500 pounds of plutonium a year. You need 10 pounds to make a bomb. It lasts for 250,000 years. So any leader can go on, countries get leaders after leader. So once you have a nuclear reactor, you can proliferate. And that's how Israel made her bombs. And Israel has the third largest arsenal in the world. She has not signed the NPT, and she neither confirms nor denies, which is incredible arrogance that she says she will neither confirm nor deny that she has nuclear weapons. So Iran looks at her and says, well, why shouldn't we have nuclear weapons? And she's surrounded by hostile countries. So she's an example to the rest of the countries around her to say, well, no, we'll get some. Now, just 2 points. Iran is within international law under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which says, we want you to have nuclear power. The IAEA says that. By the way, the bomb factories, but don't talk about that. And we'll give you all the technology for that, which includes uranium enrichment. So they're enriching uranium. Whether they're going to make bombs or not, I don't know, but your 16 intelligence agencies say there's no evidence that they're making a bomb now.
But they are not in compliance with the IAEA.
How?
Because what the right is to enrich for peaceful purposes, but because the IAEA has said they have questions about suspect activities that Iran has not answered, Iran is not in compliance, and therefore there is no absolute right to enrich, and therefore Iran still has to answer those questions before it has the right to enrich. And also, as you know, Iran has already enriched far, far, far too much low-enriched uranium for any normal usage, since the reactor that it does have, which was built by Russia, the fuel is provided by Russia and then taken back when it is spent, so they do not need fuel for that reactor, and they have enriched far too much, 20% uranium, in order to be used for their research reactor. So in reality, they have created suspicions which they have not allayed, which of course is why the IAEA has spoken out as it has. So they are problematic in this respect.
The IAEA was run by El-Baradei, who was an independent force who was not a tool of the American government. He won the Nobel Prize because he stood up to the Americans, who are pretty belligerent when push comes to shove. He is now retired, and he said there's no evidence that they're making a bomb. Okay. Then we got a Japanese guy, I can't remember his name, who many people have said is a stooge, or I can't think of the correct terminology, of the American government. In other words, he will go along with what they say. Your 16 intelligence agencies say there is no evidence they're building a bomb. I don't know if they're going to in future. But, you know, you've got to see not the mote in the other person's eye, look instead at the mote in your own eye. Don't be paranoid. You have an enormous responsibility here. You led the arms race at every step of the way except one, and Russia blindly and stupidly copied and followed. You built 77,000 hydrogen bombs in your time, and 1,000 bombs on 100 cities will cause nuclear winter and the end of life on Earth. You are the paradigm. You are the example that everyone wants to emulate, because having nuclear weapons is a sign of masculinity and nationalism. And
I think there's a lot of people who want to show their masculinity, whether or not the United States beats its chest. But in this case, since Iran has produced so much low-enriched uranium for a purpose that nobody can understand since they don't need it, and has produced a large quantity of 20% enriched uranium for which there is no clear purpose, especially since they have been offered by outside countries to send in 20% enriched fuel for their research reactor. So they have produced all this uranium, enriched all this uranium for question mark. Maybe they just want breakout capacity, but I guess the question that I'm asking is, how much do you worry? I understand totally the concerns that you have bravely fought for the United States and Russia to build down. But doesn't it disturb you that there are powers out there who want nuclear weapons irrespective of what the US and Russia do, and will go after them? And then how do you think the world should react? Especially since if you talk to leaders in the Arab world, they talk about the need that they might have to acquire nuclear weapons if Iran gets them.
Yes, and they're being sold reactors left, right and centre, including Saudi Arabia, by America, which will increase lateral proliferation. So let me address that. No, I've got to address one other thing. Physicians for Social Responsibility did a study several years ago about an attack on the Iranian enrichment facilities. And they dropped 3 nuclear weapons on Nahanz and 3 on Isfahan. And I've been to Isfahan, it's incredibly beautiful. Because bunker buses don't probably penetrate deeply enough to destroy the enrichment because they're very deep. Sure. So the resultant fallout from the uranium coming out, which is now killing children in Iraq with cancer and serious genetic and congenital deformities, because America is using uranium weapons in Iraq. That's a different issue. The amount of uranium extruded, plus the fallout from the nuclear weapons, would in the first 48 hours, according to this study, kill 2.6 million people, all the way over to Afghanistan, India and Pakistan. 2.6 million people. That study can be attained from the website at PSI. Now, no one ever talks about killing people. America's killed 1 million civilians in Iraq, half of whom are children. That's not mentioned. American lives are mentioned. But I want to finish this. Actually, I've lost the point I was going.
I think the issue that I'm trying to get at, I have written repeatedly against bombing Iran, but the question that I want to get to is there are would-be proliferators out there who are not going to stop whether or not Putin and Obama start building down. How do you see that issue?
So there are 2 issues with proliferation. As we get more and more lateral proliferation, so we destabilise the balance of terror between Russia and America. And you understood on 9/11 the anxiety, the lack of knowledge, you know, the terror that everyone had. You know, Cheney was down in the basement of the White House organising things, and You have to know how people, human beings, react with anxiety, and how easy it would be in a state of anxiety and confusion and international terror for these two arsenals to go. Now, Iran could blow up a few cities. Say New York goes. Say Washington goes. But I'm talking about the creation. I'm talking about the only life on the planet. And to look at Iran or North Korea with a microscope and say, oh, there's one, what about that one? Is displacement activity. I mean, if you put rats in a cage and threaten them with a lethal situation, they tend to run away and do something irrelevant to that which threatens them. So by looking at North Korea, which might have a couple, and all North Korea has wanted for years is a non-aggression pact with America, and they refuse to sign it, because North Korea is an important part of the war games that the Pentagon plays many days in the year. So you've got to look at, as a physician, I can't treat the boil on the face of a patient who's dying of metastatic cancer. I have to treat the cancer. The cancer is these thousands of weapons in America and Russia on hair trigger alert, which could go off, nearly set off by a rising moon once, a flock of geese, by a crazy person pressing a button. The commander of a trident could start a nuclear war, I've read that, by himself without contacting the Pentagon. I mean, I can't. I read On the Beach when I was about 17. I'm sure you've read it. And I lived in Melbourne, and Melbourne was destroyed by, fallout from a nuclear war, and that was the end of life on Earth. There was a blind flapping, and I lost my virginity then. I was 17.
Well,
and I just want to end by saying, you've got to understand how important this is. And I'm 73 and I'll be dead soon. I will. I don't know, I might get a lump tomorrow. But the most important thing is to save life on the planet, and don't practice psychic numbing, and don't practice displacement activity. It's this country that can save the planet, and everyone will emulate you because you're much admired and much respected. And I speak as someone outside your country. You have the power, and we nearly got to abolition of nuclear weapons in the 80s. We nearly got to it, and we failed. Please, please rise up and do the right thing for the world. Please, I beg you.
Thank you.
That is an
Thank
excellent
you.
place to.
Thank you both. We are going to have more time with Dr. Caldecott and with questions and answers. So I hope that at your tables, the way we're going to do this a little bit later on is that tables are going to submit questions. So I encourage you as you're eating in a few minutes to think, talk about these topics. And I'm going to invite Ed Aguilar up here to take over the next part of our program.
Thanks, Sheree, and thank you very much to Trudy and to Helen for a fascinating discussion. And this will be continued because you both have an awful lot to say, and we're really grateful for both of you. So can we have a round of applause for Trudy and Helen? Now we'll be moving to the awards portion of our program, for which I'm very happy to be introducing Leonard Haas. Before I do, I just want to mention that when we founded PNA 6 years ago, it was Leonard's father, John Haas, as well as Craig Eisendrath, Mark Lichty, Ted Brinton, Susan Campbell, myself, and just a few others who got together and said, we really need to deal with the questions that Helen is talking about today. It's not being dealt with adequately in this city and around our country, and we really want to do something about this. And so I am just delighted to see the turnout today, to see that Helen's piece, op-ed, was in the Inquirer yesterday. If you haven't seen it, you can still see it online. To know that Helen was at NBC 10, fighting the good fight on that program, which will air on April 8th. So we're trying. We will get the word out, Helen. And I was on Google this morning, and I saw that Helen was on 12. You may not know this. Just in the month of March, you have been on 12 different websites. So thank you again for your tireless work on this issue. So let me introduce Leonard Haas. Leonard Haas is both an actor and a foundation director in the city of Philadelphia. As an actor, Leonard tells me he was bitten by the acting bug back in the 7th grade at Friends Central. And he's been an actor ever since. He graduated from Ithaca College with a BFA in acting, and moved back to this area to raise a family and teach drama back at his old high school. In fact, I believe one of my old friends, Harvey Zent, met him in that context back at Friends Central High School. Leonard became a member of People's Light and Theater Company, ensemble of artists, and has performed there in over 30 productions. And he's appeared in several films. Increasing that number is something he would like to work on in the near future. He serves on several boards and is heavily involved with the WHYY Foundation. I believe he may now be the president. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard. No, not yet. Okay. But you will be making, you're striving, I know, to make Philadelphia the best arts and cultural center that it has ever been. Finally, with regard to nuclear arms, Leonard and the WHYY Foundation have taken up, in a sense, where John Haas, his late dad, co-founder, as I mentioned, of PNA, left off. They've given us a generous challenge grant for this event, and I'm pleased to say that we're close to meeting that challenge. And you'll be hearing from our local board president, Matt Schwartz, about that later on. But in the meantime, I just want to give great thanks to Leonard Haas and welcome him to come up and speak to us.
Thanks, Ed. Good evening. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you, and you too.
Very inspiring. I'm feeling very moved right now. And being the artist that I am, it's the passion that you have is very impressive, and I think we can all carry that with us and make a difference here. So I'm very honored to be here. My father, as you heard, was very, very, very concerned about this. Bless his heart, and he really didn't talk to us too much about it, and I think that's I'm dealing with that issue but it's too late now. But I didn't know too much about him and a lot of his extracurricular activities. He tended to be very, very quiet, very to himself. He would just sort of do his work without any wanting of the spotlight. And I always think, who is this guy? Who is this guy? This slight-statured, quiet, older man. And as I stated at his memorial service in May, the thought occurred to me, he was kind of like our little Clark Kent, in a way. He would get up every morning. I mean, he had a ritual, and he would have breakfast at the same time, and we were all going to school, so we were always there. And he would, I mean, it was like clockwork. And he would walk to the train station in Villanova and get on the train and go to work. And then he would sort of come back at 6:22 in the evening. It was almost exactly, the trains, I guess they ran on time back then. And he would come into the house, wash his hands, he would sit down with his family and have dinner. And we had no idea what he was really doing out there. Well, he was working for Roman Haas, yes, but there were all these, as I found out later, that he was out there shaping and influencing the very fabric of our own society, and in the case of nuclear arms reduction, our very world. So he was like our own little Clark Kent. And he was adamant about this cause, and I applaud it. And I see, and I'm so inspired now hearing what you're talking about. And my mother, who wasn't out in the workforce the way he was, she, from earliest days of memory, always had a painful reaction to any violence, any humanity. She just hated it. It broke her heart. And she told us this story when she was little about, when I was little, that she had an older brother named John that she never met because he died a few years before she was born. And he died because his friend was playing with a loaded gun, loaded pistol. Now we're going way, way back. And he tripped and fell. The gun went off, and he shot. And this was his best friend, my mother's brother, that she never met. So she grew up with this sort of mystical, I would imagine, this sort of mystical feeling, like the brother I never knew, and he was killed that way. And that, I remember hearing the stories as a young child and just being absolutely like, wow, that's amazing. And she carried that profoundly affected her and her desire for peace and love. And I mean, she could have been this hippie, at that time. She was just really wanting that peace and love. And can't we just get rid of these things? What is the point? And yes, I'm an actor, and it feels sort of small in comparison sometimes, but thank you for all you do. I'm going to introduce you now. There's a lot of you have this amazing career. I've heard of you, and I had to. Obviously, I just didn't know the depth of your experience, and starting out as a physician, but deciding, leaving the medical career to really concentrate on this insanity, and forming the Physicians for Social Responsibility. And I'm sorry, if you'd read Arsenals of Folly, you will see that these organizations, they were instrumental in trying to influence Reagan and Gorbachev in seeking to bring an end to this arms race. And the fact that your group won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1985 is wonderful. It's truly well-deserving. It sounds like you've been awarded for 20 honorary doctoral degrees. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm humbled to be here. The Smithsonian Institution named her as one of the 100 most influential women of the 20th century. That's no small thing. And here in Philadelphia, we are so honored that you are on the International Advisory Board of PNA. And again, the group that my father had something to do with, along with Craig Eisendrath, who I had finally the pleasure to meet recently, Fred Heldring and Ed Aguilar. My father was deeply committed, and I'm very proud that the award is named in their honor. And so without further ado, I'm very pleased, honored. I think I have things to hand out. I would like to present to you, our recipient of our 4th annual John and Chara Haas Award for International Peace and Justice, Dr. Helen Caldicott. You stand there.
This is actually a proclamation from the mayor.
Awesome. A standing ovation, well deserved. Oh, hop up on stage. Very nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Now, here's the first thing. Check this out. Office of the Mayor of Philadelphia. Am I reading this? No. But this is an official citation.
Last paragraph.
Signed by Michael Nutter, Dr. Caldicott, for her passionate service to the cause of humanity and the future of the planet. I also commend the Philadelphia chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility, as well as the Project for Nuclear Awareness, for their dedication to nuclear education. Signed, Michael A. Nutter. So there you go.
Very nice. Thank you.
There's something for the wall and den.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. This, okay. This is a check to.
You don't need to.
No, this is for. I had it written down.
Someone's foundation.
Oh yes.
Is it?
Yes, it is. This is from
Oh,
PNA.
thank you.
Oh well. And this is actually a signed copy. Oh, it is signed from Craig.
Craig.
Beyond Permanence.
Oh,
And that's for you as well.
thank you very much, Len.
So thank you very much. It's so nice to meet you. Let's keep up the good fight, shall we?
We have to.
We have to.
We have to.
Thank you.
I want to thank you very much, Leonard. And I never met your father, but at Craig's suggestion, I think last year or the year before, I called him, and he said, I'm going to give you $180,000 because I've admired you for years for your foundation. He said it's a one-off, but I couldn't believe it. It was so wonderful. And so I want to thank your father and your mother for what they've done profoundly from the depths of my heart.
That's an honor to hear that.
And then I want to talk about Craig. I went to a conference organised by Bruce Gagnon, I think in 99 or a little after, about weaponising space, and I knew nothing about it. I was totally freaked out. I had no idea that America was putting weapons in space to fight war from space down to Earth. It's called the New High Frontier, and quotes to effect very many kills. And Craig was there, and I thought, I wanted a friend, you know, and I thought, I think I like Craig. So we went and